It's 14 minutes after 8. We are now on to the last leg of the show this morning, which is Your Health on a Wednesday, where we look at making sure that you are healthy. And today we'd like to talk about nutrition, specifically for the younger ones who are at home, and they tend to have a lot of energy, at the same time a lot of appetite. But how do you ensure that they keep their energies up with the right food without necessarily affecting their health? Joining me to have that conversation, I have Rose Juma, who is a nutritionist at the Kenya Methodist University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. Thank you for joining us, Rose. And the young ones, of course, are blessed with a lot of energy, and which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But maybe to start off with just the fact that they're very hyper. At the same time, they have a lot of appetite. Mm-hmm. To ensure that we have the right food for them, mm-hmm, to keep their energies up, but at the same time not affecting their health.
Okay. Good morning, viewers. As you rightly put it, I must say that nutrition, health, and food security are core issues in developing nations all over the world. Mm-hmm. And poor nutrition, or I can say malnutrition or bad eating, is having a very bad consequences on the lives of everyone, particularly to the young people who are still growing. You find that malnutrition could lead us to very, very bad diseases that can be generated later in life. For example, gout, hypertension, anemia, kwashiorkor, just to name a few. Mm. So the festive season is here with us. Yes, the children are at home. Yes, everybody else also could be preparing for the festive season. Hens will be slaughtered, goats will be slaughtered, even to some extent, even cows shall be slaughtered. Mm. And then, how do we eat? How do we eat? Let me just inform us that we must observe on a few issues, particularly on cholesterol-rich foods. Mm-hmm. We must watch on those ones. I'm just going to tell you the details in a few moments. Then we also must watch on saturated fats, foods that are rich in saturated fats. We are also going to watch on trans fats. Yes, I will tell you what they mean. We're also going to watch on processed foods. Mm-hmm. These are the ones that have been manufactured. And also, let's look also at we watch on food additives. Okay, but maybe before we get there, just to help us, especially for the younger generation, they don't like to have vegetables, they don't like to have fruits. How do we creatively make sure that they have a balanced diet? Because they tend to eat, things that are very high in sugar, a lot of bread, and all that. And what does that potentially do in terms of their health? Yes, I was coming to that, but you find that the foods that you've just mentioned, high sugar intake, high fat intake,
starch,
starchy foods, these are foods that are readily converted into glycogen. If they are consumed in excess, they are readily stored in the body, and there is that potential risk of people developing a lot of fat, adipose tissues, yes, and the adipose tissues are not only deposited under the skin. Some of it is even deposited in the internal organs, which is very, very dangerous.
It's a risk.
It's a risk to a lot of diseases that I've mentioned, such as hypertension, even diabetes type 2. you know, the one that you are not born with, but later in life, you can develop it. So I was just coming over to discuss the methods on how we can feed our people, especially the children. I am aware that children don't like vegetables, they don't like fruits. Here and there they may like, but they may also not like certain foods such as grains or whole grains, for example. The whole meal flour that makes ugali, they don't like it. They would rather stick to very, very finely processed foods, or even eat junk foods such as chips and the others. So as nutritionists, we are saying that we should stick to the principles of meal planning or choosing meals. So the principles of choosing meals are emphasizing on food adequacy, food balancing the foods across the board, and then energy control. We must control energy. Nutrient density must be checked into. Variety should be emphasized. It is not even it is a must. Variety is a must. And then moderation. Moderation actually is key. Overconsumption of the various foods. So we are looking at the food groups. We must make sure that our plates are holding a bit of fruit, a lot of vegetables, grains, whole grains, meats, some meats, a little bit of the milks, and then we moderately pick on the sugars and the oils.
Okay.
So we have a notion of my plate. How should my plate look like?
Correct.
Even to the children, what is my plate? How should their plate look like?
And what does that look like?
The plate should be open plate that is divided into, you can divide it into two halves first, and then one half you divide again into two quarters. Yeah, one half divide into quarter. So one quarter is going to hold the whole grains, and the other quarter is going to hold the healthy proteins. Yeah, healthy proteins, I mean, we scale down on the meats. On the meats.
And there are various foods that we can use for protein. What are some of those foods that we can use other than meat? Because when we talk about protein, naturally most of us think of especially red meat.
Correct, yes.
But what are the other foods that we can use for protein that are healthier?
I must emphasize on the white meat, particularly fish. Fish consumption, but in good portion. Just some small portion, like 200 grams, could be enough for someone the whole day. And then, in addition to that, we have the fresh beans. Fresh beans will have good proteins. We have soya beans. We have even dry beans, things like njahe. These are very good dolichos, very good. Green peas, yes, green peas, very good in proteins, as well as soya. Soya now is like even meat in itself.
Right, it's a source of protein.
Having a lot of proteins.
What other sources do we have for vegetables, for example? Because, like I mentioned, children somehow don't like vegetables.
Yes. So I've given you the quarter. I've given you the half of the plate, which is having the grains and the healthy proteins. Then the other half of the plate, you're going to divide it into there's going to be a slightly bigger portion, more than a quarter, that is should have vegetables, fresh, leafy vegetables. Correct. Yes. And we avoid things like potatoes. Okay, they are named as vegetables, but we'll put them more on the starch side. Yeah, so we concentrate on the dark green leafy vegetables as well as the other colored vegetables. We could have some carrots, we could have some cabbages, some spinach, some broccolis, some cauliflower. You know, those colors of the vegetables is very, very important, and it makes it even more interesting and appetizing for the person who is going to eat them.
Does the diet for adults differ from children by virtue of the fact that our lifestyles are different? An adult mostly, unless you're doing manual labor, you'll find that some of our lifestyles are predominantly docile. We are sitting pretty much throughout the day, whereas children are out and about. So should we put that into consideration as we're eating? Because if we give them the same diet we have, their needs might be different.
Yes, their needs could be different, but we are saying let's start with good nutrition right from childhood. Let's not go overboard by overfeeding them with high-calorie foods, high-energy foods right from the word go. I mean, if they're just fed on standard foods that is adequate and balanced, these children are okay.
They're okay.
They don't need so much additions of the sugars and the oils. However, in case of energy deficits, there's a way that we can manipulate the calories for an individual. You can manipulate calories for a certain individualized calorie setup, then now you can be able to count on.
And see how many calories
the calorie you get in should be equivalent to what is being put out in terms of activities.
Right. I've also noticed that we have a good number of obese children.
Quite.
And it's very difficult for a parent to deny a child food. I mean, you can't put them on a, diet of sorts. How does one overcome that? Because it's a matter of concern. When a child is obese at a very young age, they are likely to have a very difficult health life, even as they grow older.
Yes, quite. The obese cases are rising day in, day out, particularly in the urban areas where food is abundant and
particularly processed food.
Yes, particularly processed foods and high sugars, nice foods that we are feeding to the children. So I'm still emphasizing that we must moderate. We must give food in moderation according to my plate principle. Yes, a little bit of each. And you find that if a child is fed on good quantities of vegetables and fruits, some of these foods have still calories in them, yes, in addition to the high-calorie ones. Yes, so let's still moderate what we are giving to the children.
So everything in moderation.
In moderation.
How does one help a child who is obese to lose weight?
Yes, we have to take some parameters of such children. We must know where they stand in terms of their weights in relation to their heights. If we find that their scale is so much up, going overboard, then they have to be put on a diet restriction. They must be restricted on energy consumption. And now we look at it as a therapy. It's not going to be normal feeding the way we want, but we have to help the child and put them on diet therapy, which is based on their weights for their heights. And it's detailed calculations that we must put into consideration.
Okay, is there a way somebody can work that out at home, or do you have to go to a center?
Well, we have nutritionists all over the country, in the counties, even at the dispensaries. They are able to sit down with these clients, now they are patients. They are able to sit down with them and work out their caloric requirements per day, the output per day, and also work out a diet plan for them. They'll be put on a good diet plan that will help them to control that weight, and they'll be given some counseling, nutrition counseling, that they can go with it home. Yes, but okay, there are methods that they can use to monitor their weights and monitor how they are doing in terms of their body mass index and even their what we call Z scores. But this one needs some professional to move along with them.
And also to advise on the actual diet, because here we're looking at cutting down calories without necessarily starving them.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So, as we wind up, there's also, especially as we get closer to the festive season, there's going to be a lot of making merry, a lot of cakes going around, and sodas. You still don't want to make people not enjoy the party, but at the same time, there needs to be caution.
Correct. There need to be caution, and I was telling the viewers that moderation is the key. We have recommended servings for each and every item of the food groups. We have recommended servings that you need to adhere to. Yes, I may not give you the details of the servings now, but that is very important. We have to stick to the servings, and if possible, stick to my plate. It's an easy way of doing it. My plate option. Stick to that, and then you consult a professional to give you a diet plan or to give you the detailed servings per day of each and every food groups. For example, we have veggies to be served 2 to 3 servings, fruits 2 servings, grains 6 to 11, meats 2 to 3, sugars and oils we use sparingly. Yes, just yes.
All right. Now I was going to say maybe you can give us your parting shot in terms of what should we ensure during this season that we have in our cupboards, in our fridges, because the other thing about the young ones is that they tend to nibble. Eat. So depending on what you have exposed to them, they are likely to eat that or consume that.
Yes. As they nibble around, let's attract them with foods, with the fruits and colored vegetables all over, nicely presented, but we keep off the nice foods that we reward them with, like sausages. You're rewarding a child with chips. You're rewarding them even with the ice creams and cakes, and all that are packed with energy. We call them energy dense foods. They are just going to add into their calories and increase their risk of developing the lifestyle diseases, we call them.
All right.
So let's avoid bad fats. Let's avoid excess salt intake, excess sugar intake, also processed foods, highly processed foods, because we are just adding a lot of bad additives into our bloodstream. I'm not saying we avoid, but we take with caution. We limit the intake, and also sedentary lifestyle. I'm emphasizing on this. As we keep our children around, let's encourage them to jump around, sing, and enjoy themselves outdoors. Let's not keep them on nice programs that we are going to buy over the holidays. We are jeopardizing their health.
All right, Rose, we'll have to wind up there because of time. That's Rose Juma, nutritionist at Kenya Methodist University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. Thank you for joining us this morning and enlightening us on good, healthy diets that you can have for your children, especially during this